Captain Sarah Chan stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the holographic display show the burning remains of what used to be the Kepler Research Station. 300 human scientists and their families had called that place home. Now it was nothing but twisted metal and frozen corpses drifting in the void. "Ma'am, we're receiving a message from Admiral Torres," Lieutenant Kim reported from the communications station. His voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "Put it through," Sarah commanded, her own voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. Admiral Torres appeared on the main screen, his weathered face grim. Behind him, Sarah could see the bustling command center of Luna Base, humanity's primary military headquarters. "Captain Chun, I'm sure you've seen the footage from Kepler Station." "Yes, sir. All hands lost." The attack was coordinated and precise. This wasn't some pirate raid or territorial dispute. The weapon's signatures match Council technology. Torres nodded slowly. "That's what our intelligence suggests as well. The Galactic Council has made their position clear. After 15 years of so-called friendship and cooperation, they decided humanity is too dangerous to exist." Sarah clenched her fists. 15 years ago, humanity had made first contact with the Galactic Council, a confederation of 12 alien species that claimed to govern most of the known galaxy. The humans have been welcomed with open arms, invited to establish research stations and trade posts throughout Council space. Earth had shared its technology freely, helped solve disputes between member species, and even contributed military support during the Void War against an extragalactic threat. All of it had been a lie. "Sir, what are our orders?" Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew. "The Council has given us an ultimatum. All human presence outside the Sol system must be withdrawn within 30 days, or they will consider it an act of war. They claim our expansion is too rapid, our military too advanced, and our species too aggressive for galactic peace." Lieutenant Kim spoke up from his station. "Sir, that's impossible. We have over 2 million civilians on research stations, trade hubs, and colony worlds across Council space. 30 days isn't enough time to evacuate even half of them." Torres's expression darkened further. "I know, Lieutenant, which is exactly what they're counting on. This isn't a warning, it's a pretext. They want us to fail to comply so they can justify what comes next." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "What comes next, sir?" "Complete extermination of the human species. Our intelligence sources within the Council have confirmed it. Project Cleansing Star. They plan to use their combined fleets to destroy every human settlement, including Earth itself. They see us as a threat to their established order." The bridge fell silent except for the low hum of the ship's systems. Sarah looked around at her crew, seeing her own shock and anger reflected in their faces. These people had trusted the Council, worked alongside alien crews, formed friendships with beings from across the galaxy. The betrayal cut deep. "There's more," Torres continued. "The attack on Kepler Station was just the beginning. We've lost contact with 17 other research facilities in the past 6 hours. They're not waiting for their ultimatum to expire. They're already moving against our people." Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins, the ship's science officer, stepped forward. "Admiral, what about our allies? The Zephyrians have worked closely with us on quantum drive technology. The Meridian Collective owes us a debt for our help during the plague outbreak on their homeworld. Surely some species will stand with us." Torres shook his head sadly. "Dr. Hawkins, we've reached out to every species we considered friendly. The response has been the same across the board. Either silence or formal statements supporting the Council's decision. Fear, apparently, is more powerful than gratitude." Sarah understood. Humanity had indeed advanced rapidly since joining the galactic community. Human ships were faster, human weapons more powerful, human tactical doctrine more flexible than anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. What the Council called aggression, humans called innovation. What they called dangerous expansion, humans called exploration and scientific curiosity. But that same rapid advancement had made other species nervous. Humanity had gone from primitive planet-bound creatures to a spacefaring civilization in less than 2 centuries. In galactic terms, that was practically instantaneous. Most species took millennia to achieve what humans had done in decades. "Sir," Sarah said carefully, "what does Earth Command intend to do about this situation?" Torres was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of a terrible decision. "Captain Shun, you and Every other human fleet commander are hereby ordered to begin immediate evacuation of all civilian populations. However, we will not be retreating to Sol System as the Council demands. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Sir, the United Earth Senate met in emergency session 4 hours ago. The vote was unanimous. If the Galactic Council wants a war, they'll get one. But it won't be the quick extermination they're expecting. The Admiral's image flickered for a moment as the secure transmission adjusted its encryption. When it stabilized, Torres leaned forward, his eyes hard as steel. For the past 5 years, while we've been playing the part of grateful junior partners, Earth's military-industrial complex has been preparing for this possibility. The Prometheus Project, Captain. Every ship in the human fleet has been systematically upgraded with technology the Council doesn't know we possess. Quantum displacement drives, temporal shielding, antimatter cascade weapons, and neural link command systems that allow for coordination across vast distances. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. She'd heard whispers about advanced research projects, but the scope of what Torres was describing was staggering. The Council thinks they know what human ships are capable of, Torres continued. Their intelligence is based on the technology we've shared with them and the performance of our ships during joint operations. They have no idea what we've really been building. Dr. Hawkins stepped closer to the screen. Admiral, are you saying we've been deliberately concealing our true capabilities? Not concealing, Doctor. Preparing. Earth's leadership has always known this day might come. Every peaceful gesture, every technological exchange, every joint operation has been an intelligence-gathering mission. We know their fleet compositions, their tactical doctrines, their supply lines, and, most importantly, their weaknesses. Sarah began to understand the scope of what was happening. This is why human crews have been assigned to ships throughout Council space. We've been positioning assets for years. Exactly, Captain. The Council thinks they're fighting a war against a species of clever primitives with stolen technology. They're about to learn what humans are really capable of when we stop pretending to be harmless. The tactical display updated, showing the positions of human ships throughout the galaxy. Sarah was amazed to see just how extensively humanity had spread its forces. There were human vessels in every major system, often disguised as research ships or cargo haulers. Your immediate orders, Captain Chun, are to proceed to the Vega system and begin coordinating the defense of the civilian evacuation. The Defiance has been selected as a squadron flagship. You'll be commanding 12 ships initially, with more to join as they complete their current missions. Sarah straightened in her chair. Understood, sir. What about rules of engagement? Torres's expression became grim. Captain, the Galactic Council has declared its intent to commit genocide against the human species. They have already begun attacking civilian targets. There are no rules of engagement. You are authorized to use any and all means necessary to protect human lives and eliminate threats to humanity's survival. The weight of those words settled over the bridge like a heavy blanket. Sarah had served in the human fleet for 15 years, most of that time working alongside alien crews in peaceful missions of exploration and cooperation. The idea of all-out war against the very species they'd been cooperating with felt surreal. But the images of Kepler Station's destruction were still fresh in her mind. 300 people, including children, murdered without warning or provocation. If the Council wanted to play the role of genocidal tyrants, humanity would show them the consequences of that choice. Sir, one more question, Sarah said. What about Earth itself? If we're deploying our forces throughout the galaxy, how do we protect the homeworld? For the first time during the conversation, Admiral Torres smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Captain, Earth is the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. The Council knows about our orbital defense platforms and the Sol defense fleet. What they don't know about is the quantum fortress network, the planetary shield generators, or the fact that Luna Base is actually the control center for the most powerful weapon system ever constructed. Sarah stared at the Admiral in amazement. What kind of weapon system? The kind that can crack a moon, Captain. The Council wants to threaten Earth? Let them come. They'll discover that humanity's homeworld has become something unprecedented in galactic history, an absolutely unconquerable fortress. The transmission began to break up as the Defiance's quantum drive prepared to engage. Captain Chun, your detailed mission briefings are being transmitted now. Remember, the galaxy is about to learn that humanity is not the harmless species of helpful scientists and eager diplomats we've been pretending to be. We're the descendants of survivors who crawled out of caves and conquered their own world. We've adapted to every environment, survived every catastrophe, and overcome every enemy we've ever faced. Torres paused, his image flickering as the transmission struggled to maintain coherence across the quantum barrier. The Galactic Council has made the greatest tactical error in their history. They've given humanity a common enemy and a reason to unite. They think they're fighting a war against a single species. They're about to discover they're fighting a war against an idea. The idea that no one has the right to tell humanity where it can or cannot go, what it can or cannot do, or whether it deserves to exist. The transmission cut out as the Defiance's quantum drive engaged, hurling the ship across space toward the Vega system. Sarah stood in the sudden silence of the bridge, watching the stars stretch into lines of light as they entered quantum space. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Kim said quietly, "what are your orders?" Sarah looked around at her crew, seeing determination replacing shock on their faces. These were good people, trained professionals who'd signed up to explore the galaxy and protect human interests. Now they were being asked to fight a war that would determine whether humanity had a future among the stars. "Mr. Kim, transmit a fleet-wide message to all human vessels in this sector. Tell them Captain Shun is taking command of evacuation operations in the Vega system. All military vessels are to report to my position for new orders. All civilian ships are to begin immediate evacuation procedures." She paused, thinking about the magnitude of what they were facing. 12 alien species, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all united in their determination to wipe humanity from the galaxy. Against that, humanity had perhaps 300 ships and a few million people scattered across dozens of worlds. But humanity also had something the Council didn't understand. They had the fury of a species that had been betrayed by those they trusted. They had the desperate courage of people fighting for the survival of their children. And they had weapons and tactics the galaxy had never seen. Also, Mr. Kim sent a message to Earth Command. Tell them the crew of the US Defiance is ready to show the galaxy why you don't pick a fight with humans. As the ship raced through quantum space toward what would become the first major battle of the Human Council War, Sarah began reviewing the mission files that Admiral Torres had transmitted. The scope of the Prometheus project was staggering. For 5 years, while the galaxy had seen humanity as peaceful explorers and researchers, Earth's military had been quietly preparing for this moment. Every human ship had been equipped with quantum displacement drives that could move them across vast distances almost instantaneously. Every vessel carried antimatter weapons powerful enough to destroy ships 10 times their size. Most importantly, every human crew had been trained in tactics specifically designed to counter the fighting methods of each Council species. The Zephyrians relied on mass formations and overwhelming firepower. Human tactics would focus on hit-and-run attacks that prevented them from bringing their numbers to bear. The Meridian Collective used living ships that could regenerate damage. Human weapons would target their neural control centers, turning their adaptive biology against them. Each species had specific weaknesses that humanity had identified and developed countermeasures for. What looked like an impossible fight against overwhelming odds was actually a carefully planned campaign against enemies whose every strength and weakness had been cataloged and analyzed. As the Defiance dropped out of quantum space near Vega, Sarah saw the proof of humanity's preparations. The evacuation fleet was already in position, with massive colony ships ready to take on refugees from the research stations and trade posts throughout the system. But surrounding them was something that made Sarah's heart race with anticipation. The first human battle squadron was waiting for her. 12 of the most advanced warships humanity had ever built, their hulls gleaming with the quantum reactive armor that would make them nearly impossible to target. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering that combined human innovation with the best technology from across the galaxy. But more than that, Sarah could see the fury in the formation of the fleet. These ships weren't just following evacuation protocols. They were hunting formations, predator patterns that spoke of a species ready to show the galaxy what happened when you threaten human children. The Council had declared war on humanity, expecting to face a species of grateful primitives who would beg for mercy. Instead, they were about to encounter something they'd never seen before. Humans who had stopped pretending to be harmless. Commander Marcus Rodriguez watched the sensor readings with growing amazement as the Council fleet approached the Tau Ceti system. 67 ships in total, including 3 massive Zephyrian dreadnoughts that each outmassed anything in the human fleet by a factor of 10. It was exactly the kind of overwhelming force that the Council had used to intimidate smaller species for millennia. What they didn't know was that the human evacuation fleet they were expecting to find had finished its work 3 days ago. Every civilian had been safely transported to ships hidden in the outer system. What waited for them instead was Commander Rodriguez and his 7-ship strike squadron concealed behind the debris field of an old asteroid mining operation. "Sir," Lieutenant Foster whispered from the sensor station, "they're not even scanning for stealth signatures. They're running a basic sweep pattern like they're looking for cargo ships." Rodriguez nodded grimly. The Council's intelligence was based on 15 years of watching human ships operate within galactic law, using standard detection systems and conventional tactics. They had no idea that every human vessel now carried quantum phase stealth systems that made them effectively invisible unless they chose to reveal themselves. "Wait until they're fully committed to the inner system," Rodriguez ordered. "Let them get comfortable. Let them think they're dealing with frightened refugees running away." The wait was agonizing. Rodriguez had read the reports from other sectors where human ships were already engaging Council forces. The initial results were encouraging, but incomplete. Humanity was winning individual battles, but the Council had vast numerical superiority. Every victory had to count for more than just ships destroyed. They had to break the Council's will to fight. "Sir, lead elements are passing the orbital platform ruins," Foster reported. "They're slowing down, probably to scan for human technology to salvage." That was the moment Rodriguez had been waiting for. The Council's arrogance was legendary throughout the galaxy. They saw other species as sources of useful technology to be claimed when those species proved troublesome. The idea that humans might have booby-trapped their abandoned facilities clearly hadn't occurred to them. "Execute Pattern Delta," Rodriguez commanded quietly. The 7 human ships materialized from quantum phase stealth simultaneously, appearing in a perfect sphere around the lead Council squadron. For a few precious seconds, the alien ships didn't even react, probably trying to figure out how 7 vessels had appeared from nowhere. Those seconds were enough. The U.S. Retribution fired first, its antimatter cascade lance punching completely through a Meridian collective cruiser. The living ship's bioarmor meant nothing against a weapon that converted matter directly into energy. The vessel simply ceased to exist, leaving only a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated plasma. The other human ships opened fire in perfect coordination, their quantum-linked targeting systems ensuring that no 2 vessels targeted the same enemy. 7 Council ships died in the first salvo, their shields and armor useless against weapons they'd never encountered before. "Second wave incoming," Foster called out as the rest of the Council fleet began to react. "Zephyrian dreadnoughts are turning to engage." Rodriguez smiled. This was exactly what they planned for. "All ships, implement the Matador Protocol. Let's show these big, ugly bastards what happens when you charge a human." The human ships scattered in 7 different directions, their quantum displacement drives allowing them to move in ways that defied physics as the Council understood it. The massive Zephyrian dreadnoughts, designed to slug it out with equally massive opponents, suddenly found themselves trying to target ships that could teleport across the battlefield at will. The lead dreadnought, a kilometer-long monster called the Starbreaker, fired its primary weapon array at the position where the U.S. Vengeance had been a split second earlier. The concentrated beam of exotic matter was powerful enough to shatter a moon, but it struck empty space as the human ship reappeared directly above the dreadnought's command section. "Target their quantum resonance chambers," Rodriguez ordered. "Let's see how tough these ships are when we turn their own power systems against them." The Vengeance fired its quantum disruptor array directly into the Starbreaker's primary hull. Instead of trying to punch through the massive ship's armor, the weapon created a quantum cascade that turned the dreadnought's own power core into a bomb. The explosion was visible from 3 light minutes away as one of the most powerful ships in the Zephyrian fleet simply vanished in a ball of contained nuclear fire. "Jesus Christ, Lieutenant Foster, briated." "Sir, that was a ship that's supposed to be able to fight entire fleets. It can fight fleets of ships that use conventional tactics and weapons," Rodriguez replied. "We're not conventional." The battle continued for another 20 minutes, but the outcome had been decided in the first 30 seconds. The Council fleet had been built to fight massive, straightforward battles between large formations of ships. They were designed around the assumption that space combat was about bringing the most firepower to bear from the greatest distance. Human tactics threw all of those assumptions out the window. Using quantum displacement drives, the human ships could attack from any angle at any time. Using quantum link targeting, they could coordinate attacks with precision that made them effectively one enormous ship with 7 separate weapons platforms. Most importantly, their weapons were specifically designed to exploit the weaknesses of Council technology. When the last Council ship either fled or was destroyed, Rodriguez found himself staring at sensor readings that seemed impossible. 7 human ships had engaged 67 Council vessels and achieved a complete victory with 0 losses. The debris field that had once been the pride of 3 different alien fleets stretched across millions of cubic kilometers. "Sir," Foster said quietly, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Torres." Rodriguez nodded. "Put it through." Admiral Torres appeared on the main screen, and Rodriguez was surprised to see that the man was actually smiling. "Commander Rodriguez, I've been watching the tactical feeds from your engagement. Outstanding work." "Thank you, sir. But this was just one battle. The Council still has hundreds of ships." Commander. Had hundreds of ships. You're not the only human squadron that's been busy today." Torres gestured to someone off-screen, and a galaxy-wide tactical display appeared. In the past 6 hours, human forces have engaged Council fleets in 17 different systems. The results have been consistent across the board. Rodriguez stared at the display in amazement. Red indicators showed the locations where Council fleets had been destroyed or forced to retreat. The pattern was clear. Wherever the Council had expected to find easy targets, they'd instead encountered human forces that were operating on a completely different level of technological capability. "Sir, what are our total losses?" Torres's expression became more serious. 14 ships damaged, 3 destroyed. Against that, we've eliminated or disabled over 400 Council vessels. The Meridian Collective has already lost 30% of their entire fleet. The Zephyrian hegemony is down to half strength. The magnitude of what Torres was telling him slowly sank in. In less than a day, humanity had crippled the military forces that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. Species that had never known defeat were suddenly facing the real possibility of complete military collapse. "But, sir," Rodriguez said carefully, "this level of success seems almost too easy. Are we sure the Council is committed to this war? Maybe we can negotiate now that we've demonstrated our capabilities." Torres's smile vanished entirely. "Commander, 30 minutes ago, a Council fleet attacked the civilian evacuation convoy at Wolf 359. They didn't try to capture the ships or negotiate terms. They opened fire on refugee transports carrying children. We lost 8,000 civilians, including 3,000 kids under the age of 10. Rodriguez felt a cold rage settle over him. The engagement he just fought had been about tactical objectives and military strategy. What Torres was describing was murder. "There will be no negotiation, Commander. The Council has shown us exactly what kind of war they intend to fight. They want to exterminate our species, starting with our children. So we're going to show them what humans do to child killers." The display changed to show new tactical assignments. Rodriguez saw that his squadron was being reassigned to the Rigel sector, where a massive Council fleet was gathering for what intelligence suggested would be an assault on the human colonies in that region. "Sir, what about the rules of engagement?" Torres looked directly into the camera, his eyes as hard as space itself. "Commander, the Galactic Council has declared its intention to commit genocide. They have demonstrated that intention by murdering human children. You are authorized to use any and all means necessary to eliminate threats to human survival. If a Council ship surrenders, take prisoners if practical. If they run, let them go so they can spread word about what happens when you fight humans. But if they threaten human lives, show them no mercy whatsoever." The transmission ended, leaving Rodriguez alone with his thoughts and the tactical data for his next mission. The Rigel sector was home to 3 human colonies with a combined population of nearly 2 million people. The Council fleet gathering there included over 100 ships from 6 different species. But as Rodriguez studied the intelligence data, he began to see patterns that suggested the Council was making the same mistakes they'd made everywhere else. They were treating this like a conventional war against a conventional enemy. They were positioning their ships in standard formations, using predictable supply lines, and apparently assuming that human resistance would follow patterns they understood. Mr. Foster, Rodriguez called to his sensor officer. Send a message to the other squadron commanders in our task force. Tell them we're about to teach the Council another lesson about fighting humans. As the 7 ships of Rodriguez's squadron prepared to jump to Rigel, he found himself thinking about the broader implications of what was happening. For 15 years, humanity had been the grateful junior partner in a galactic community that claimed to value peace and cooperation. They'd shared their technology, contributed to joint missions, and tried to be good galactic citizens. Now it turned out that the entire time, the other species had seen them as a threat to be eliminated when convenient. The friendship had been fake, the cooperation had been a lie, and the peaceful coexistence had been nothing more than a temporary truce until the Council felt strong enough to commit genocide. But the Council had made one critical error in their calculations. They'd assumed that humanity's rapid technological advancement was just luck or stolen technology. They hadn't understood that human innovation came from a fundamentally different way of looking at problems. While other species had spent millennia perfecting variations on the same basic technologies, humans approached every challenge with the assumption that there had to be a better way. Where other species saw established limitations, humans saw opportunities for innovation. Where other species saw the way things had always been done, humans saw starting points for improvement. The result was that while the Council thought they were fighting a war against a species that had barely mastered space travel, they were actually fighting a species that had reinvented space travel from the ground up. Quantum jump in 30 seconds, Foster announced. Rodriguez looked around at his crew, seeing determination and barely controlled anger on their faces. These people had signed up to protect human civilization, not to fight genocidal wars against former allies. But they were adapting to the situation with the same flexibility that had allowed humans to survive ice ages, plagues, and every other catastrophe their homeworld had thrown at them. All ships, stand by for combat operations, Rodriguez announced on the squadron channel. Remember, we're not just fighting for victory. We're fighting to make sure that every species in this galaxy understands what happens when you threaten human children. As the ships jumped into quantum space, Rodriguez began reviewing the tactical situation at Rigel. The Council fleet was positioned exactly where human intelligence had predicted, following doctrine that was thousands of years old. They were spread out in a defensive formation that would be perfect for protecting fixed positions against conventional attacks. Against human ships that could attack from any direction at any time, it was practically an invitation to be slaughtered. But this time, Rodriguez wasn't just planning to destroy ships. The massacre at Wolf 359 had changed the nature of this conflict. The Council had shown that they were willing to murder children to achieve their goals. Now humanity was going to show them the consequences of that choice. Rodriguez had studied the histories of every major war his species had ever fought. He knew what humans were capable of when they stopped trying to be civilized and started trying to be effective. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson as well. The Council wanted a war of extermination. They were about to discover that no species in galactic history was better at that particular kind of warfare than the descendants of Earth's most successful predators. High Counselor Vexthera of the Meridian Collective stared at the tactical displays in the Council's Emergency Command Center on Nexus Prime, struggling to comprehend what she was seeing. In 72 hours, the combined fleets of 12 species had lost over 800 ships to human forces that shouldn't have been able to challenge a single Council squadron. "This is impossible," muttered General Kroon of the Zephyrian hegemony, his 4 arms gesturing frantically at the holographic displays. "These readings must be wrong. No species advances this quickly. It violates every principle of technological development we've observed in 10,000 years of galactic history." High Counselor Zarakai of the Stellar Dominion, her crystalline form shifting through anxious color patterns, spoke with a voice like breaking glass. "The readings are accurate, General. I verified them personally. The humans have been lying to us for years about their true capabilities." Vexthera felt the bioneural links that connected her to her living ship fleet sending back reports of devastation. The Meridian Collective had contributed 47 ships to the initial attacks on human positions. Only 12 remained operational, and most of those were too damaged to fight effectively. "How?" she asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. "How did we so completely misunderstand what we were facing?" Council Military Coordinator Thane, a massive reptilian being whose species had conquered half the galaxy before joining the Council, stepped forward. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never lost a battle until 3 days ago. Because they played us, he admitted, the words clearly painful. For 15 years, they've been showing us exactly what we wanted to see. Grateful primitives, eager to learn from their betters, happy to contribute their crude technology to our advanced civilization. Every joint operation, every cultural exchange, every scientific collaboration was intelligence gathering. The implications of what Thane was saying slowly sank in around the room. The humans hadn't been junior partners in the galactic community. They'd been infiltrators, gathering information about Council military capabilities while carefully concealing their own advancement. The quantum displacement drives alone represent a complete revolution in space travel, added Dr. Kethvar, the Council's chief military scientist. Our ships move between points in space. Their ships can appear at any point in space instantly. It's not just an advancement in existing technology, it's a completely different approach to the problem of movement. Vextera accessed her ship's memory banks, reviewing 15 years of interactions with human crews. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, she could see patterns she'd missed before. The humans had always asked slightly too many questions about Council ship specifications. Their scientific proposals had always focused on areas that would give them insight into alien technology. Their cultural exchange programs had always placed human observers on Council vessels during military exercises. They've been planning this war since the moment they made first contact, she realized aloud. Worse than that, Thane replied grimly. They've been planning to win this war. Every piece of technology we've shared with them, every tactical doctrine they've observed, every weakness they've identified has been incorporated into their battle strategy. They know us better than we know ourselves. The tactical display updated with new reports from the front lines. A human strike force had just eliminated the Council garrison at Proxima Centauri, a system that was supposed to be impregnable. 17 Council ships destroyed, 0 human losses. General Kruen's primary arms slammed against the display table. This is why we should have acted sooner. I warned this Council 5 years ago that human expansion was too rapid, their innovation too dangerous. But you all wanted to wait to study them, to benefit from their technology. The decision to eliminate humanity was unanimous, Counselor Zarakai pointed out, her crystalline form flashing angry red. Including your vote, General. Yes, because I thought we were fighting primitive warships with stolen technology. I didn't know we were fighting an enemy that had been preparing for this specific war for 15 years. Dr. Kethvar brought up a new set of readings. There's more. Our intelligence suggests that what we've seen so far isn't the full extent of human capabilities. Analysis of their weapons signatures indicates they have at least 3 different classes of weapon systems we haven't encountered yet. And their ships appear to be operating far below maximum capacity. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just losing battles against an enemy they'd underestimated. They were losing battles against an enemy that was still holding back. What do you mean, operating below maximum capacity? Vextera asked. Power output analysis suggests their ships are capable of at least twice the performance we've observed. Their weapons appear to be dialed down to minimum effective settings. It's as if they're testing our defenses rather than trying to destroy us as quickly as possible. High Counselor Mordak of the Void touched, a species that existed partially outside normal space-time, materialized fully into the current dimension. The humans are sending a message. They want us to understand exactly how outmatched we are before they reveal their true strength. Thane nodded slowly. It's a psychological warfare technique. Let the enemy realize gradually that resistance is futile. Break their will to fight before committing to total war. Then, we surrender, Counselor Zarakai said immediately. We offer terms, negotiate a peace treaty, accept whatever demands they make. Continuing this war is suicide. Unacceptable, General Krun growled. The Zephyrian hegemony has never surrendered to anyone. We will not start now. Vextera felt her bioneural links carrying reports from across Meridian space. Human ships were systematically destroying every Council military installation they could find, but they were leaving civilian populations untouched. It was professional, efficient, and terrifyingly effective. General, she said quietly, pride is a luxury we can no longer afford. The humans aren't just winning battles, They're demonstrating that they could have destroyed us at any time during the past 15 years. The fact that we're still alive means they want something other than our extinction. What could they possibly want? Dr. Kethvar asked. They have technology superior to ours, tactical doctrines we can't counter, and apparently limitless strategic intelligence about our capabilities. Why would they need anything from us? Before anyone could answer, an alarm sounded throughout the command center. The massive tactical display shifted to show the Nexus Prime system, and what Vextera saw there made her feel like her binaural links were freezing solid. A single human ship had appeared in orbit around Nexus Prime itself. It wasn't attacking, wasn't even charging weapons. It was simply sitting there, demonstrating that it could appear anywhere in the galaxy at will, including in the heart of the most heavily defended system in Council space. How did it get past our defenses? General Krun demanded. It didn't get past them, replied the system defense coordinator, his voice shaking. It just appeared inside them. Our sensors show no record of movement, no energy signatures, no quantum disturbance. One moment there was empty space, the next moment there was a human warship. Vextera stared at the image of the sleek, human vessel hanging motionless above their planet. It was smaller than most Council warships, but something about its design suggested tremendous power held in careful restraint. The ship's hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it appear more like a hole in space than a physical object. Sir, the communications officer announced, the human ship is requesting permission to dock. They want to send a diplomatic envoy. The irony was almost too much to bear. After 3 days of devastating military defeats, the humans were asking permission to talk. This is a trap, General Krun insisted. They want to get an assassination team into our command center. High Counselor Mordak flickered between dimensions, his voice carrying harmonics that suggested deep thought. If they wanted us dead, General, we would already be dead. That ship could have destroyed this entire facility before our sensors even detected its presence. Vextera found herself agreeing with the void-touched counselor. The humans had just demonstrated that they could place military assets anywhere they wanted, including inside the Council's most secure locations. If they'd wanted to decapitate the Council leadership, they wouldn't need to send diplomats to do it. Grant them permission to dock, she decided. But maximum security protocols. I want to know what they want. 20 minutes later, Vextera found herself facing something she'd never expected to see. A human diplomat who looked genuinely sad about the war her species was winning. Ambassador Elena Vasquez was a middle-aged human female with graying hair and eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the last 3 days' casualties. She wore a simple diplomatic uniform without military decorations, but something about her presence suggested she was far more than a mere negotiator. High Counselor Vextera, Ambassador Vasquez said, her voice carrying a slight accent that the universal translator rendered as formal respect. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I know this isn't easy given current circumstances. You destroyed 12 of my ships just this morning, Vextera replied bluntly. Forgive me if I'm not feeling particularly diplomatic. I understand, and I'm genuinely sorry for your losses. Every ship we've destroyed, every life we've taken, weighs heavily on human conscience. We didn't want this war. General Krun stepped forward aggressively. You didn't want this war? You started it. You attacked our forces without warning or provocation. Ambassador Vasquez turned to face the Zephyrian general, her expression remaining calm despite his obvious hostility. General, with respect, your forces attacked human civilian research stations first. We have sensor recordings of Council ships destroying Kepler Station without attempting to communicate with the inhabitants. That was a preemptive strike against a military threat, Krun replied. Those were scientists and their families. Children, General. Your forces murdered 300 people, including 87 children under the age of 12, without even asking them to surrender. The room fell silent. Vextera had read the reports from Kepler Station, but hearing the casualty breakdown in human terms made the reality of what had been done more immediate. Every species in this room, Ambassador Vasquez continued, has children of their own. How would you feel if alien ships appeared in your space and started killing your young without warning or explanation? Counselor Zarakai's crystalline form shifted to defensive blue patterns. The Council determined that human expansion posed a threat to galactic stability. Based on what evidence? Ambassador Vasquez asked. Our expansion into space assigned to us by Council treaty? Our research programs that were approved by Council committees? Our trade agreements that benefited everyone involved? Dr. Kethvar stepped forward. Based on the rate of your technological advancement, no species develops as quickly as humans have. It suggests dangerous instability. For the first time since the conversation began, Ambassador Vasquez smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Dr. Kethvar, you're absolutely right. Humans do develop technology faster than other species. Do you know why? Stolen technology and reckless experimentation, the scientist replied immediately. Wrong. We develop quickly because we assume that every problem has a solution that hasn't been discovered yet. Most species look at faster-than-light travel and say, this is how it works, how can we improve it? Humans look at faster-than-light travel and say, this is one way it works, what are the other ways? She gestured toward the window where the human diplomatic ship hung in space like a dark promise. Quantum displacement isn't an improvement on existing technology. It's a completely different approach to the same problem. We didn't steal it or stumble onto it by accident. We developed it because we refuse to accept that there are limits to what can be achieved. Vextera felt a chill run through her bioneural links. You're saying that everything we've seen so far is just one approach among many. I'm saying that the ships fighting your forces right now represent human technology from 2 years ago. We've been improving continuously since then. The implications hit the room like a physical blow. They weren't fighting humanity's best forces. They were fighting what humans considered to be obsolete equipment. What do you want? Vextera asked quietly. Ambassador Vasquez's expression became serious again. Survival for everyone in this room. The Council declared its intention to commit genocide against the human species. We've demonstrated that genocide is impossible. Now we need to discuss what comes next. Surrender terms? General Krun asked bitterly. No, General. Partnership terms. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We want to explore it, study it, and help make it a better place for everyone. But we will never again allow ourselves to be placed in a position where other species can threaten our existence. Ambassador Vasquez activated a small holographic projector, showing a star map of a local galaxy. What we're proposing is a new form of galactic government, one where humanity takes responsibility for defending everyone against external threats, while each species retains sovereignty over their own space and citizens. Vextera stared at the proposed territorial divisions. You want us to accept human military protection? We want you to accept the reality that you need human military protection. The quantum signatures we detected during our initial engagements indicate that at least 3 extragalactic powers are watching this conflict very carefully. The Void War wasn't the last threat from outside our galaxy. It was just the first. High Counselor Mordak materialized fully. You're suggesting that this entire war has been observed by external forces. We're suggesting that a galaxy divided against itself is vulnerable to conquest by powers that dwarf anything we've seen before. Humanity spent 15 years preparing to fight the Council, if necessary. We spent the same 15 years preparing to defend the galaxy against threats you can't imagine. The room fell silent as everyone contemplated what Ambassador Vasquez was telling them. The war they'd been fighting wasn't about territorial disputes or technological advancement. It was about preparing for threats that made their current conflict look like a minor disagreement. And if we refuse your protection? Counselor Zarakai asked. Ambassador Vasquez's expression became very sad. Then, you'll face the next extragalactic invasion alone. And, based on our projections, that invasion will begin within the next 5 years. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center of the UES Prometheus, humanity's first Fortress-class starship, watching the real-time tactical display of the Battle of Nexus Prime unfold around her. What had started as a diplomatic mission 3 hours ago had suddenly become the largest space battle in galactic history. The extragalactic invasion that Ambassador Vasquez had warned about had arrived early. Admiral, reported Captain Martinez from the sensor station, we're detecting massive quantum distortions at the edge of the system. Whatever's coming through is big. Really big. Sarah felt her stomach tighten as she watched the readings. The quantum signatures were unlike anything in their databases, but the energy levels were staggering. Whatever was about to emerge from the void between galaxies made even the largest Council dreadnoughts look like patrol boats. Council ships are taking defensive positions around Nexus Prime, Lieutenant Foster announced. High Counselor Vextera is requesting immediate military cooperation under emergency protocols. Sarah almost smiled at the irony. 3 hours ago, the Council had been fighting a war of extermination against humanity. Now, they were begging for human protection against something that made their previous conflict look trivial. "Grant the request," Sarah ordered. "Signal all Council forces to integrate with our defense grid, and tell them to follow our targeting protocols exactly. If they improvise against these enemies, they'll get everyone killed." The first extragalactic ship emerged from quantum space like a cancer growing in the vacuum. It was organic rather than mechanical, a writhing mass of biometal that seemed to absorb light and twist space around itself. As Sarah watched, the readings showed that it was over 5 kilometers long and was generating energy signatures that defied physics. "Jesus," Captain Martinez breathed. "Admiral, that thing is reading as a single living organism. The entire ship is alive." More ships emerged, each one different from the others, but sharing the same organic, predatory design philosophy. Within minutes, Sarah was looking at an invasion fleet of 67 vessels that collectively massed more than the entire Council military. "Sir," Lieutenant Foster called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead ship. It's in multiple languages, including human languages we've never shared with anyone." That sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "Put it through." The voice that filled the command center was beautiful and terrible, like music played on instruments made from screaming. "People of this galaxy, we are the Devourers. We have crossed the void to claim what is ours. Your resistance is noted and will be punished. Your compliance is expected and will be rewarded. You have 1 hour to surrender your starships and prepare your populations for harvest." The transmission cut out, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Sarah had fought in the Void War 15 years ago, but these things were different. The previous extragalactic invaders had been mechanical, predictable, following patterns that human tacticians could eventually understand. The Devourers felt chaotic, predatory in ways that suggested they enjoyed the hunt as much as the victory. "Admiral Chun," came High Counselor Vextara's voice over the communication channel. "Our combined fleets include over 400 ships. Surely that's enough to drive off 67 enemies, regardless of their size." Sarah wished she shared the Meridian leader's optimism. "Counselor, with respect, you're thinking about this in conventional terms. Look at those energy readings. Each of those ships has firepower equivalent to a small star. And they're organic, which means they can adapt and evolve during combat." Before Vextara could respond, the lead Devourer ship demonstrated exactly what Sarah meant. It extended what looked like feeding tentacles toward a nearby asteroid, and within seconds the entire mass of rock and metal was absorbed into the alien vessel. As they watched, the ship's bioreadings showed it growing larger and more powerful. "They eat matter and convert it directly into energy and mass," reported Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins from the science station. "Admiral, they're not just invading. They're planning to consume everything in this system, including the planets and stars." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. This wasn't just about defending human interests anymore. If the Devourers succeeded here, they would have a foothold in the galaxy that would allow them to consume world after world until nothing remained. "All ships," she announced on the fleet-wide channel. "This is Fleet Admiral Chun. We are now facing an enemy that wants to eat our entire galaxy. I don't care what species you belong to or what conflicts we've had in the past. Right now, we're all on the same side." She paused, looking around at her bridge crew, seeing determination mixed with fear on their faces. "Human ships will take point on the attack. Council forces will provide support and backup. Our objective is not just to drive them off, but to make sure they understand that this galaxy is defended by people who don't give up and don't surrender." The first wave of Devourer ships began moving toward the inner system, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. Sarah watched the tactical display as human ships moved to intercept, their quantum displacement drives allowing them to position themselves perfectly for the initial engagement. "All ships, weapons free," Sarah ordered. "Show them what we've learned about fighting impossible odds." The UES Retribution opened fire first, its antimatter cascade lance striking the lead Devourer ship directly. The beam that had obliterated Council vessels without effort splashed harmlessly against the alien's bioarmor, which seemed to absorb the energy and use it to grow stronger. "Conventional weapons aren't working," Captain Rodriguez reported from the Retribution. "Their bioarmor is adapting to our attack patterns in real time." Sarah had expected this. The Prometheus and her sister ships had been built specifically to counter threats that conventional human technology couldn't handle. All Fortress-class ships activate the quantum resonance arrays. Let's see how well they adapt to weapons that attack them from multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Prometheus unleashed its primary weapon, a quantum resonance cannon that didn't just attack the target in normal space, but struck it across multiple parallel dimensions at once. The effect on the Devourer's ship was immediate and devastating. Its bioarmor began to crack and bleed as it tried to adapt to attacks from realities it couldn't perceive. But as the alien ship died, Sarah saw something that chilled her to the bone. The other Devourer ships were learning from their companion's death. Their bioarmor was already beginning to develop quantum resistance, using their ability to evolve in real time to counter human weapons. They're adapting faster than we anticipated, Dr. Hawkins reported. Admiral, at this rate, our weapons will be useless within the next 30 minutes. Sarah looked at the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. 67 ships that could adapt to any weapon, grow stronger by consuming matter, and coordinate their evolution in real time. It was exactly the kind of enemy that had kept human military planners awake at night for 15 years. Mr. Foster, she said quietly, patch me through to Earth Command. Priority Alpha authorization. Admiral Torres appeared on the screen within seconds, his expression grim. Admiral Chun, we're monitoring the situation. The Omega protocols are standing by. Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. The Omega protocols were humanity's final contingency plan, weapons, and tactics so devastating that they'd never been tested in combat. Using them would reveal capabilities that were supposed to remain secret for another decade. Sir, the situation here is beyond anything we planned for. These things adapt faster than we can develop new weapons. If we don't stop them here, they'll consume this entire galaxy within a year. Torres nodded slowly. Admiral, you are hereby authorized to implement Omega Protocol 7. God help us all. The connection cut out as Sarah turned to her weapons officer. Lieutenant Parker, unlock the temporal destabilization array. Set resonance frequency to match the quantum signatures of the Devourer fleet. Lieutenant Parker's hands shook slightly as he entered the authorization codes. Admiral, are you sure? The temporal weapons are completely untested against organic targets. We don't know what the side effects might be. Lieutenant, those things plan to eat every planet in this galaxy, including Earth. Side effects are a luxury we can't afford. Sarah watched as the Prometheus's most secret weapon system came online. Humanity had discovered that time itself could be weaponized, used to age targets to death in seconds or trap them in temporal loops that prevented them from acting. It was technology so dangerous that only 3 people in the entire human fleet knew how to use it. Temporal destabilization array is online, Parker reported, targeting the center of the Devourer formation. Fire. What happened next would be remembered in galactic history as the moment when time itself became a weapon of war. The temporal distortion field expanded outward from the Prometheus, washing over the Devourer fleet like an invisible wave. For a few seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien ships began to age. Their bioarmor started to crack and decay as millions of years of entropy were compressed into moments. The organic components that gave them their adaptive abilities simply couldn't evolve fast enough to counter an attack that existed outside of normal time. One by one, the massive ships began to collapse in on themselves as their biological processes accelerated beyond the point of sustainability. My God, whispered Captain Martinez. Admiral, we're reading total structural failure across the entire enemy fleet. They're dying of old age. But Sarah wasn't celebrating yet. The temporal weapons were incredibly powerful, but they were also incredibly dangerous to use. The distortion field that was aging the Devourer ships to death was also affecting local spacetime in ways that could have consequences for decades. Dr. Hawkins, what's our temporal stability reading? The science officer checked her instruments, her expression growing concerned. Admiral, we're seeing quantum fluctuations that could affect this entire system for the next 50 years. Time dilation effects, causality loops, possible paradox formation. Sarah made the hardest decision of her career. All ships, immediate evacuation of the Nexus Prime system. We have approximately 10 minutes before the temporal effects become irreversible. The evacuation was chaos, but it was organized chaos. Human ships used their quantum displacement drives to grab council vessels that couldn't escape on their own carrying them to safety outside the temporal distortion field. In 8 minutes and 37 seconds, every living being in the Nexus Prime system was evacuated to a safe distance. Behind them, they left a system where time no longer flowed normally, where the Devourer fleet would remain trapped in an endless cycle of death and rebirth, unable to escape or adapt their way out of temporal imprisonment. Admiral Chen, came High Counselor Vexthara's voice over the communication channel. What have you done? Sarah looked at the readings from the abandoned system, seeing space-time itself twisted into patterns that hurt to contemplate. I've saved the galaxy, Counselor. Those things would have consumed every world, every star, every living being they could reach. The temporal prison will hold them for at least 1,000 years, maybe longer, at the cost of an entire star system. At the cost of one star system to save billions of others. It's a trade I can live with. General Kruen's voice joined the conversation, his tone carrying a mixture of awe and fear. Admiral, what other weapons does humanity possess that we don't know about? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the arsenal of reality-breaking weapons that Earth Command had developed in secret. Dimensional displacement cannons that could erase targets from existence itself. Quantum probability manipulators that could make enemy ships spontaneously explode. Consciousness transfer weapons that could turn an enemy fleet against itself. General, she said finally, humanity has been preparing for 15 years to fight enemies that the rest of the galaxy can't imagine. The Council thought we were dangerous because we advanced too quickly. The truth is, we advanced quickly because we knew what was coming. High Counselor Mordak's voice, carrying harmonics from multiple dimensions, joined the conversation. You've been preparing to fight the Devourers, specifically? We've been preparing to fight anything that threatens the survival of intelligent life in this galaxy. The Devourers are just the first wave. Our long-range sensors have detected at least 4 other extragalactic powers that are watching our galaxy and waiting for the right moment to invade. The implications of what Sarah was telling them slowly sank in across the combined fleet. The war between humanity and the Council hadn't been about territorial disputes or technological advancement. It had been a distraction from the real threat, a waste of resources and lives that had left everyone vulnerable to enemies that made their petty conflicts irrelevant. Admiral, Vexthara said quietly, what happens now? Sarah looked at the tactical displays showing the locations of human ships throughout the galaxy, each one armed with weapons that could reshape reality itself. For 15 years, humanity had been the junior partner in a galactic community that had never understood what they were really dealing with. Now, Counselor, we prepare for the next invasion. And we make sure that every species in this galaxy understands that we're all in this together, whether we like it or not. As the combined fleet jumped away from the Nexus Prime system, leaving behind a monument to humanity's willingness to sacrifice everything to protect the galaxy, Sarah began planning for a future that would require cooperation on a scale that had never existed before. The galaxy had tried to destroy humanity for being too dangerous. Now they were about to discover that humanity's true danger lay not in what they could destroy, but in what they were willing to sacrifice to protect others. 1 year after the Battle of Nexus Prime, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the UES Unity, humanity's newest and most advanced starship, looking out at something that would have been impossible to imagine just 2 years ago. The first Galactic Defense Summit was taking place in the Sol system, with representatives from every major species in the galaxy gathered around Earth itself. Ships that had been trying to kill each other during the Council War now flew in perfect formation, their crews working together to prepare for threats that dwarfed anything their previous conflict had produced. Admiral, came the voice of Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins, now serving as Director of Xenotechnology Integration. The final security briefing is about to begin. The Council representatives are ready to receive the full threat assessment. Sarah nodded, but continued looking out at the assembled fleet. Zephyrian dreadnoughts flew alongside human destroyers. Meridian bioships had formed symbiotic connections with crystalline defense platforms. Species that had spent millennia in isolation were now sharing their most advanced technology in preparation for battles that none of them could fight alone. The transformation had been remarkable, but it hadn't been easy. After the Devourer invasion, it had taken months of negotiation, demonstration, and careful diplomacy to convince the former Council species that cooperation wasn't just beneficial, it was absolutely necessary for survival. Dr. Hawkins, Sarah said as they walked toward the briefing room, How are the integration projects progressing? Better than we had any right to hope for. The Meridian Biointegration Program has produced hybrid ships that can regenerate damage while maintaining human tactical flexibility. The Zephyrian mass production facilities are turning out human-designed weapons at rates we never thought possible. And the crystalline computational networks have given us predictive capabilities that border on precognition. They enter the briefing room to find representatives from 12 species gathered around a holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Sarah recognized faces that had been her enemies just 1 year ago, now looking to humanity for leadership in ways that still felt surreal. High Counselor Vextera of the Meridian Collective had become one of humanity's closest allies, her bioneural links providing coordination capabilities that had proven essential during joint operations. General Krun, despite his initial resistance, had become the primary advocate for human tactical doctrine among the Zephyrian military. Even High Counselor Mordak had committed his people's dimensional manipulation technology to the common defense. Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished beings, Sarah began, activating the threat assessment display. Thank you all for coming. What I'm about to show you represents 15 years of human intelligence gathering and analysis combined with the most recent data from our long-range sensor networks. The display shifted to show the void between galaxies, with markers indicating the positions of extragalactic civilizations. What the assembled representatives saw made several of them physically recoil. The Devourers were just the advanced scouts, Sarah continued. Our analysis indicates that there are at least 6 major extragalactic powers currently moving toward our galaxy. Each one represents a threat level equivalent to or greater than what we faced at Nexus Prime. High Counselor Zarakai's crystalline form shifted to anxious purple. 6 invasions? Admiral, our combined fleets might be able to handle one more Devourer-level threat. 6 is impossible. Not if we fight them the way we've always fought threats individually, Sarah agreed. But we're not going to fight them individually. We're going to fight them as a unified galactic civilization using technology and tactics that none of these enemies will expect. She activated a new section of the display, showing ship designs that incorporated technology from every major species. The Unity-class fleet represents the integration of every technological advancement our species have achieved. Human tactical innovation, Meridian biointegration, Zephyrian industrial capacity, crystalline computational power, void-touch dimensional manipulation, and technologies from every other species represented in this room. Dr. Hawkins stepped forward, her voice carrying excitement despite the grim subject matter. What we've achieved in the past year represents the greatest technological leap in galactic history. Ships that can think with crystalline intelligence while healing with meridian biology. Weapons that combine human antimatter cascade technology with Zephyrian mass drivers and void-touch dimensional displacement. General Kruin's 4 arms gestured at the ship designs. These vessels are impressive, Admiral, but you're still talking about fighting forces that could consume entire star systems. What makes you think we can win against such enemies? Sarah smiled, and for the first time in the briefing, it was a genuinely optimistic expression. General, because we're not just going to fight them. We're going to do what humans do best when faced with impossible odds. We're going to cheat. The display shifted to show tactical plans that made use of technologies the assembled representatives had never seen before. Temporal displacement fields that could move entire fleets backward in time to attack enemies before they arrived. Quantum probability weapons that could make hostile actions simply fail to occur. Dimensional maze generators that could trap invading forces in pocket universes where they would be harmless. The Omega Protocols, Sarah continued, represent humanity's final contingency plans for threats that cannot be defeated through conventional means. With the technological integration we've achieved over the past year, these systems can now be deployed on a galactic scale. High Counselor Mordak flickered between dimensions, his voice carrying harmonics of amazement. Admiral, you're describing the ability to manipulate reality itself as a weapon of war. That's exactly what I'm describing, Counselor. Humanity spent 15 years preparing to defend this galaxy against threats that conventional tactics couldn't handle. Now, with the combined knowledge and capabilities of every species represented in this room, we've created defense systems that operate beyond the normal laws of physics. Vextera's bioneural links pulsed with rapid data processing. This level of technological integration should be impossible. The computational requirements alone would exceed the capacity of any known systems. Dr. Hawkins activated another display, showing a network that spanned the entire galaxy. That's why we've created the Galactic Defense Grid. Every major world, every significant fleet, every important facility now contributes processing power to a network that can coordinate defense operations across millions of star systems simultaneously. The implications slowly sank in around the room. They weren't just talking about defending individual worlds or systems. They were talking about turning the entire galaxy into a single, unified defense platform. But there's more, Sarah continued. The grid isn't just defensive. It's designed to learn, adapt, and evolve in real time. Every engagement with extragalactic forces will make the entire network smarter and more capable. She paused, looking around at the assembled representatives, seeing understanding dawning in their expressions. Ladies and gentlemen, 1 year ago, this galaxy was divided by species barriers, territorial disputes, and mutual mistrust. We were vulnerable because we were separate. The extragalactic powers have been watching us for millennia, waiting for the right moment to strike when we were weak and divided. The display shifted to show the current state of galactic civilization. Unified fleets, integrated technologies, shared intelligence networks, and cooperative defense strategies. They waited too long. What they're going to encounter when they arrive isn't a galaxy of competing species fighting among themselves. It's a galactic civilization that has learned to think and fight as one entity, using technology that combines the best innovations from dozens of different approaches to the same problems. General Krun leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. Admiral, you're describing a transformation that typically takes species thousands of years to achieve. We've done it in 1 year. Because we had to, General, because the alternative was watching everything we've built be consumed by enemies who see our entire galaxy as nothing more than resources to be harvested. High Counselor Zarakai's form shifted to cautious blue. What happens after we defeat these invasions? Will humanity maintain control over the galactic defense systems? Sarah had been expecting this question. Counselor, humanity never wanted control over the galaxy. We wanted to explore it, study it, and protect it. The defense systems we've built are designed to be maintained by representatives from every species. Humanity will continue to serve as military coordinators, but only because we've proven we're good at it, not because we claim any special authority. She activated a final display, showing proposed governmental structures for post-war galactic civilization. What we're proposing is a true galactic federation, where each species contributes their strengths to the common good while maintaining sovereignty over their own space and citizens. Humanity handles military coordination and defense planning. The Meridians manage biological and medical systems. The Zephyrians oversee industrial production. The Crystallants maintain the computational networks. Vextara's bioneural links pulsed with approval. A civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. Exactly, because that's the only kind of civilization that can survive what's coming. As if summoned by her words, an alarm sounded throughout the Unity. Lieutenant Foster's voice came over the communication system. Admiral Chun, we're detecting massive quantum distortions at the edge of the Sol system. Multiple contacts heading directly for Earth. Sarah looked around at the assembled representatives, seeing determination replacing fear on their faces. Ladies and gentlemen, it appears our preparations are about to be tested. Battle stations, everyone. Let's show these invaders what a unified galaxy can do. As the representatives rushed to their ships and command posts, Sarah made her way to the Unity's bridge. Through the viewports, she could see the ships of the Galactic Defense Fleet taking formation around Earth, their combined technologies creating an integrated defense network that spanned the entire system. Admiral, reported Captain Martinez from the sensor station, we're detecting 43 extragalactic vessels. Configuration unknown, but energy readings suggest they're even larger than the Devourer's ships. Sarah looked at the tactical display, seeing the approaching enemy fleet represented as red markers moving through the outer system. But she also saw something that filled her with confidence. Hundreds of Allied ships moving into coordinated defensive positions, their crews representing every major species in the galaxy working together with precision that would have been impossible just 1 year ago. All ships, she announced on the fleet-wide channel. This is Fleet Admiral Chun. 1 year ago, we were divided enemies fighting among ourselves while threats gathered in the darkness between galaxies. Today, we stand united as a galactic civilization. She paused, watching as the enemy fleet approached the edge of Earth's defense perimeter. Today, we show the universe that this galaxy is defended by peoples who refuse to surrender, refuse to submit, and refuse to allow anyone to threaten the worlds and civilizations we've built together. All ships, weapons free. Let's give these invaders a welcome they'll never forget. The Battle of Seoul began with a coordinated strike from over 300 ships representing 12 different species, their combined technologies creating weapons effects that defied conventional understanding of physics. Temporal displacement cannons fired simultaneously with bioweapon systems. Quantum destabilization arrays worked in harmony with dimensional maze generators. As Sarah watched the enemy fleet encounter defenses unlike anything in galactic history, she realized that humanity had achieved something unprecedented. They had turned their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. The same rapid advancement and aggressive exploration that had made other species fear them had become the foundation for a galactic civilization that could defend itself against any threat. The galaxy was no longer a collection of competing species. It was home to a unified people who had learned that their differences made them stronger, not weaker. And anyone who threatened that home would discover that there was no force in the universe more dangerous than intelligent beings who fought not just for survival, but for the future of everything they loved. The stars themselves would remember this day as the moment when the galaxy stopped being afraid of the darkness between them and started making sure that the darkness was afraid of what lay within the light.